If you do even just a little bit of research on plants in the pandemic, you will find a huge increase in the interest of gardening in general. Corey Chatis bought her home in 2012 and she inherited her landscape. Now she has made big changes since 2021 in the pandemic. Corey, tell us about it.
Thanks, Rita. Well, I inherited, as you said, a lot of the landscaping, and I'm in an urban neighborhood in East Nashville. And so one of the things that's important is to make the landscape accessible right next to the sidewalk so people feel like it's still cared for and not untidy.
And you have done that with your beautiful Sweet Bay magnolias, which are host plant for the tiger swallowtail, I might add, plus wonderful fragrance. And tell us about your coreopsis here.
This is a lance leaf coreopsis, which, if you can believe, has been in the ground less than 6 months, and it has just been super happy right in the front here. And I have to say, one of the great joys of transitioning to native gardening is people will come by my street and tell me how happy my garden makes them and that they look for its development over time. So
that's wonderful. And then in the fall, you have these fantastic aromatic asters.
Yes, they are trying to take over the world, these aromatic asters, but in the October, November timeframe, they are covered with purple blossoms and covered with bees. It almost sounds like a hive, how much activity they have.
Oh, that's so cool. And stuck in there, you have a little bitty wild indigo too.
I have 2 baptisia in there, yes, that are a nice counterpart. They're trying to fight out for space, but I also have some blue-stemmed goldenrod sprinkled throughout too.
Oh, that's wonderful. What a show that will be in the fall. And it's a beautiful show in the summer too. So, and in the process of changing all your landscape over to your purposeful living, as you have told me about, you have gotten 2 certifications here.
I do. I started off with the Tennessee Smart Yard, which is a wonderful program where you get to learn a ton about soil and pest management and water mitigation. So I greatly enjoyed getting that certification, which is free. And then most recently, I just achieved the Wild Ones Native Habitat certification, which was quite a rigorous process that I really enjoyed submitting myself for.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Corey, so this all came about after 2021. Were you a gardener before this?
I was not a gardener before this, much to my mother's chagrin. She is a wonderful gardener, but I did not seem to inherit her inclination until the pandemic. So it started off when I had 3 mature Yoshino cherries in this backyard.
Right here.
Right here that were failing, and I sadly had to take them out. And since I had inherited all of this landscaping from the prior owner, taking those trees out made me realize that I could make my garden my own. And so the first native plant that I put in was this wonderful bur oak there. And I then started thinking about what I wanted my garden to be. And I started reading up on things, and I discovered Doug Ptolemy's book, Bringing Nature Home, which was a wonderful inspiration to me about utilizing whatever land that you have to be beneficial not just to humans, but to the environment and to as many plants and animals as possible. And so that really was the catalyst for me to start thinking about converting my entire garden to native plants. So I started doing a ton of research into all the varieties of plants that call Tennessee home, and started looking into what trees I might want to put in and what bushes and what perennials. And I quickly became overwhelmed and realized that I am not a garden designer and I didn't need to be. So that is when I started researching native garden designers, and I hired someone from outside of Chattanooga, Dennis Bishop, who then came on site. He drove up for the day and took all of the measurements and assessed the sun and the soil and everything. And he drew a design plan to scale for me so that I knew exactly where to plant everything.
You executed his plan yourself.
Did. Yes, I was the muscle behind the operation. I took out Nandina, I took out many different shrubs, privet, and all sorts of other non-natives, and cleared the beds, and then purchased and put everything in myself, which is, gives you a great sense of accomplishment to know that you were the one who planted everything that's here now.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. And I love your purple coneflower, which is kind of a signature species of the native plant garden.
Absolutely.
It's just such a good performer.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what else have you got in here?
Well, we have some mountain mint. This is hairy mountain mint, which I did not realize was going to get quite that tall, so I wouldn't have put it in the front if I'd known, but lesson learned. I try to think of all of my planting as an experiment. I also have a couple of different varieties of viburnum. Those are the shrubs there.
Love that.
And you'll see we have some more of the aromatic asters back here as well.
Gorgeous orange milkweed right here, Asclepias tuberosa, host plant for the monarch butterfly. Also a fantastic nectaring plant for just about anything, especially a lot of small butterflies and bees. And you got a little bit of beer tongue right here, which the bees also love.
Yes.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, southern magnolia. I love it. Oh, and the fragrance is so heady. It's just fantastic.
It is.
Did you plant this?
I did not. These two wonderful mature magnolias I inherited from the previous owner, and I love them very much. There used to be a third, which was over here, and sadly during one of our bad storms, it toppled over. And so while I was very sad about that, it gave me an opportunity to plant another native tree. So this is a black gum tree that will eventually become a pretty mature canopy tree. And trees are just a huge priority for me in my yard. I love them so much. And Dennis and I had many arguments about how many trees I could cram into my third of an acre. So,
but you have a great shade space back here, so it's at least 10 degrees cooler probably than
it's
up
wonderful
there.
To have this area back here. I can put more of the shade-loving perennials like the heucher as well, and I have some euonymus shrubs in the back that also like the shade.
Now you told me before about your philosophy of ground covers is if it's probably less than 10 inches and it's not doing anything wrong, you're just going to leave it because you don't have time.
I work full time and I don't do well in the heat, and so I try to just manage my weed management in a way that's realistic. And so if it's something native like a clover and it's not bothering anyone or crowding out the plants that I planted, I just let it be. It makes the bunny family that lives in my yard very happy. So I try to take a minimalist approach.
Okay, how is your soil here?
It's a pretty heavy clay soil, but I've just adjusted to that. I tried blueberries the first year and it just was not meant to be. They don't do well in clay.
I like the acid too.
Yeah, so in a way though, it limits your choices in a good way, so you become less overwhelmed with what will do well.
Yeah.
And it's just trial and error, but I haven't done soil amendment except for when I expanded the beds in the front yard. I did sheet mulching with some organic mulch, but that aside, I have just worked with the soil that I have.
Okay. Sometimes the spaces between our homes and our neighbors' homes can be really awkward. I love the way you have used the red cedar here, the native eastern red cedar, and the beautiful roses, and the American holly back there. Can you tell us the cultivar names you used on each of these?
Sure, this is the Brody juniper, and the reason that we selected that is that it does not get enormous like some of the native junipers do.
Which will be 50 plus feet.
Yes, and coming all the way into the yard. So Dennis's philosophy, which I think is the same as Wild One's, is only use a cultivar if you really need to, because there's an attribute of it that is the way it'll work within your particular garden.
Exactly, and in a suburban lot, this is just what works, so.
Yes, and they've been really happy. They've been in for less than 2 years and are already doing really well.
And it's a female, so you're gonna have lots of berries here.
Yes, so many berries this year.
That's great.
Yes.
And the birds will love it.
Yes, and so just to mix it up a little bit, I also have some native roses. Those are prairie roses that will soon climb up the fence and provide some additional screening. And down here is an American holly, and that too is a cultivar. It's called Cedar Hill. And the reason that I selected that one is that it also will not get enormous, and it will grow to fill this space, but not get any larger to infringe upon the neighboring plants. One of the things that was important to me is to take into account the mature size of all of the shrubs and trees to make sure that I was setting them up to be successful and healthy even in their mature state.
Exactly. Now, you told me you talk to your plants. Do you talk to your trees too and your shrubs?
I talk to all of them. I give them pretty much daily encouragement. I tell them how beautiful they are. I tell them what a good job they're doing. And I'm sure my neighbors think I'm batty, but for me, it's just part of the relationship that I'm just so happy to have them in my yard, and they give me so much joy that I try to give them some appreciation back.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think they feel the vibe, don't
I think so. I think so.
Anyway, you do. Okay, so this
is, I think, it's hard to pick a favorite, but this might be one of my favorite trees in the yard. This is a yellowwood tree.
Oh, I love
which is not all of that common and was sort of hard to find, but it is beautiful in 4 seasons. When it gets a bit more mature, every other year it's going to have these wonderful white flowers. It hasn't flowered yet, but I eagerly await the year that it does. And in the winter, when all of the leaves drop off, the bark is this beautiful silvery gray color, and it's very architectural in terms of how the branches form.
Gorgeous. And the one thing you inherited that you love, and I do too, is your Amsonia here. I've never, even at Grow Wild in Fairview, I have not seen one this big.
Yes, this Amsonia.
How did you do this?
I did nothing. This just is doing what it wants to do, and it's been a wonderful spring bloomer with those beautiful sort of bluish purple flowers. And I've added one on either side just to further fill out the bed, but it was a perfect spot for it.
Thank you so much for letting us come today. This whole landscaping garden is just gorgeous. We've so enjoyed it, and I think people have learned a lot.
Thank you, Rita. I appreciate that.
I always ask all my guests, what is your advice to either newbie gardeners or to any gardener?
I think especially for newbie gardeners, which I was just 3 years ago, I would say start small, pick one small bed or even a portion of a bed, and then look into what native plants will do well there. Just be mindful of how much sun it gets and what kind of soil you have and how much space you have, and then pick a small assortment of native plants and go from there. They will bring you great joy, and it's more manageable than trying to overhaul your entire garden at once.
That's great advice. That's my advice too. Even if it's just around a mailbox or just in a container.
Start somewhere.
Yes. And now you've gone from nothing to over 60 native plants in your yard. That's fantastic.
Thank you. More to come. More to come.
Thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Rita.
If you love gardening as much as I do, you'll want to subscribe to this channel. We showcase not only gardens, but gardeners as well, and the joy that the two of those meshed together can bring.